Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. It's about 1 p.m. on the East Coast. And this video will be about a trip that I made to Nevada last week, actually, more specifically to Tonopah. For those that don't know, Tonopah is a town, population about 3,000 people. That's about a 3-hour drive north from Las Vegas. So basically, you drive north from Las Vegas on I-95. You go through Area 51 or near Area 51, where aliens are supposed to be, I don't know, researched or found. Um, and there's a lot of history to this region of the state. It's the Walker Lane trend. A lot of mining history here. In fact, Tonopah itself has quite a prolific history of mining. And if you look at the Blackrock or Summa Silver presentations, there's definitely a bit about the history of the Tonopah Mining District in there. Tonopah produced since 1900, when the first discovery was made, 175 million ounces of silver and nearly 2 million ounces of gold. And while those numbers are really impressive, period, the grades are what's even more impressive. And this is the grades that were, recorded, that were stated. Almost surely the reported grades are understating what the old timers really mined. So 1,235 grams per ton silver equivalent. So put that in gold values, you're talking about a half ounce of gold per ton, half ounce grades. Um, Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So to create that big of a system, that big of a high grade system, this is an area where there was a lot of volcanic activity. There were multiple events that drove the fluids bearing the gold and the silver up to surface. And, for a long time, I think that the district went dormant. So basically, it went dormant in the 1920s or 1930s during the Great Depression, and then stayed dormant until recently. And there was a combination of factors. The first one was low gold and silver price. The second one was World War. Um, Third one, I think, was just the severed claims. The area was just too chopped up to put together anything sort of cohesive. Howard Hughes, famous world record holder pilot and one of the wealthiest men in the world in the 50s and 60s, put together a package of claims in Tonopah, but never mined it. And what Summa Silver has to today is basically the property package that was once owned by Howard Hughes. And I also just think that the technology in exploration was not advanced enough to sort of go deeper and find what was still left in the earth. And frankly, there's a lot left in the earth around Tonopah. So that's been proven by the exploration of the last several years, carried out by Blackrock, Summa, and other companies, like Allegiant Gold, West Vault Mining. And I'll say in the last decade, so just not the last several years, in the last decade, there's been new discoveries made in and around Tonopah, and there's work being carried out there as I speak. So the tour started with Allegiant, and Allegiant Gold is a company that I have heard of for several years. I know that they had optioned out some projects to other companies, um, including the Mogollon project in New Mexico to Summa. But I was not up to speed with Allegiant's project near Tonopah. Okay. Uh, and the company put out a news release on May 24th, really detailing the plans for this project, okay, which is basically multiple projects rolled into one. You have Castle Project at the East Side Project. You have Goldfield West, um, and put it all together. It's the East Side District near Tonopah. So, what's interesting about Allegiant? Well, the valuation is really low. I mean, I know that's nothing new in junior mining to have a low valuation, but seems like it's very cheap when you put when you add up the sum of the parts of the company, and the fact that um, well, the Boss mine, which is part of their property package, was a formerly operating mine in the 1980s. Uh, that wouldn't be very hard to restart again as an open pit heap leach uh, mine. And then around it, you have Castle, Berg, and Blackrock. Put it all together, and you have a pretty decent size, deposit. You're talking about 1 million ounces, about a half gram, and this is oxides, right? This is heap leachable oxides, simple, metallurgy, and actually 1 million ounces at a half gram near surface oxide in this area of the world is definitely mineable. I mean, like that can absolutely be economic. And later on, we'll talk about Westvault, and they have something similar. And sort of, my big takeaway from Tonopah is a lot of really interesting projects, great infrastructure, great mining history, permittable jurisdiction, but all the projects are somewhat scale challenged. They're just not big enough to interest a major mining company. And so, the big takeaway, and this is not the first time I've said this, I feel like there has to be some sort of a roll up around Tonopah. It just doesn't make sense to have all of these smaller companies, whether they're 20 million, 40 million, or 60 million market cap, they're all under 100 million. They're smaller companies, they're technically micro caps. It doesn't make sense to have so many micro caps bearing all the management expenses, the listing and accounting expenses. I mean, if we rolled all four of these companies I'm talking about right now, we rolled them all up into one, you'd have something. You'd have something very valuable, in my opinion. Good management team at Allegiant. I met Peter, sharp guy, definitely comes off well as a CEO. And I also met the VP of exploration. His name is Alan Roberts, I believe. Extremely sharp guy, knows his stuff, right? So that's one of the first things that you want to look at when researching a junior mining company. What's the quality of the people involved in the company, right? And so with Allegiant, uh, it passes that sniff test. The quality of the management is definitely there. Also, Kinross is invested in Allegiance. So then you have another sort of check, right? You have good jurisdiction, quality management team, and then you have a major mining company as a 9.9% investor. So that's helping to validate the quality of the company's projects and the work that they're doing. So they plan to spend a good chunk of this money this year with this drill program. So 12,700 meters of drilling to be carried out this year. So they're not sitting still. They're actually going to have a very busy second half of 2023. And in this news they put out May 24, they detail exactly what they're going to be doing. Most of it is going to be RC drilling because RC drilling is much cheaper, easier. Um, and definitely cost of drilling is an issue in and around Tonopah. I think core drilling is somewhere around $400 US per meter to do core drilling near Tonopah, whereas RC is more like 100 or 150, right? So there's a big difference in cost there. Now, you need to do core in some of these areas to understand the rocks and be able to really see the structures, right? You don't get that in the RC chip. So they will be doing, I believe, three RC, sorry, 7 diamond holes in total. So 2 at the east side project, 4 at Castle, and 1 at the TS project. The 2 up here, at the east side, are going to be targeting the interpreted boiling zone of this low sulfidation epithermal system. That's going to be interesting. Put it all together. This is going to be a really interesting second half of 2023 for Allegiant. Okay. And the stock is basically at its lows for the year, 17 cents a share. This is like, I don't even think this is a $20 million market cap at 17 cents a share. So obviously the chart is dreadful, but it's at support. It's really oversold. I think the market is concerned they're going to be doing a financing, but frankly, I'm not sure they need to. I think they have a few million in the treasury right now, and I believe that Allegiant will get at least $1 million option payment from Summa in August for the Mogollon project. I'm not 100% sure on all the details of that, but I know that it's coming up on the 3-year anniversary, and Summa does need to decide. Here we go. Option terms. So 3-year anniversary, $1 million. And then, so they're definitely going to be receiving. Oh, and then the option to purchase the remaining 25% for $3 million. So this could be totaling $4 million if Summa, decides to take 100% of it instead of creating a JV 75-25. So that's going to be interesting. But at least $1 million is going to be coming from Summa to Allegiant in August. So put that together. I don't know they have to raise money. Maybe it would be a prudent thing to do. But again, management owns 14%. You have another large shareholder over 10%. You have Kinross at 9.9%. And then IM Gold, another mid-tier miner, 4.1%. And this fund at 2.6%. So put it together, you got some pretty strong hands here in the stock. It's not a bloated share structure, fully diluted 118.9 million. But current issued and outstanding are about 100 million shares. So really a typical share structure, especially for a company with projects that are reasonably advanced. There's a resource, right? They could put economics on the project probably once they complete this 12,000 meters of drilling in 2023. So my overall takeaway from Allegiant was positive. I am not a shareholder at this point in time, but my overall takeaway was positive. And I am definitely watching this company as they do the resource upgrade program and generate a PEA at some point in the next year, right? And I definitely think that with the Boss Mine, essentially, it's not permitted technically right now, but it's one of those projects, brownfields projects, that would definitely, you'd say it has a fast track to being permitted. I think that just in itself is worth 15 or 20 million dollars. I mean, being able to get permitted with 1 million ounces of gold nearby, that's valuable. I mean, the market is basically saying that Boss and Castle don't have any value. It's not high enough grade. I don't know. I've seen other open pit, heap leach, projects move into production and become quite profitable. I mean, the key is near surface oxide gold with simple metallurgy with good recoveries. I mean, that's the magic formula. And there's mines operating in this state that are zero point 0.4 grams per ton gold. So zero point 0.5 is actually pretty good, and zero point 0.6 is borderline fantastic. Anyway, next company that we looked at was Summa. Summa's been working in New Mexico for the most part in the last year or so, but obviously we were in Tonopah to see the Hughes project. My overall takeaway from Hughes is that it's size constrained. It's just not big enough right now based upon the drilling they've done to date to be a standalone mine. The Murray vein is the extension of the Victor vein that Blackrock has. Summa has like the other maybe 300, 400 meters of strike extension of the Victor on their on their claims. I've not been terribly impressed by the other drilling around Belmont or Mizpah. Yeah, they've pulled some high grade intercepts, but they've been generally pretty narrow, and it's kind of choppy. It's not creating a consistent, cohesive ore body. It's kind of choppy, and I just don't see this being a standalone mine. I think they need more. They need more scale. Now, whether that scale is by adding with Blackrock or by making a new discovery out here to the east at Ruby, that remains to be seen. But what I'm really interested in is Ruby, and Summa had already drilled two RC pre-collar holes at Ruby when we were there last week, and the first diamond drill hole had begun. So they're still early in this diamond core hole at Ruby. Maybe by now they're, I don't know, I'm guessing 300, 400 meters into it. I don't know, but they were just starting that first core hole at Ruby. They plan to drill two core holes at Ruby to basically test this big anomaly and follow up on previous holes that were drilled there, including one that intersected 1,437 grams per ton silver over a half meter. So clearly, there is a vein out there. Okay, there is an extension out here. We just don't know how wide it is, how big it is, how high grade it is, and how far it extends, right? And so Summa is spending some money to do some step out, drilling over here this year. They're testing multiple targets, actually. I believe it's 7 core holes in total, testing multiple targets. The big one is obviously Ruby, but they have other targets out there. And I believe this phase of drilling is really important for them, because if it comes up empty out here with this step out drilling, I think Summa has to really assess its future in Tonopah. Is it worth it to keep going? What's the strategy moving forward? Obviously, if they make a new discovery, if they find, so, 10 meters of, a kilo of silver, then it's game on. It's absolutely game on. And I think that could even reinvigorate the whole Tonopah area, that, there's a new discovery in an area where people had given up and didn't think there was anything out here to the east, right? And, Summa has been focused just over here around the town of Tonopah, but their claims package extends all the way around here, and they have just scratched the surface in terms of stepping out and exploring this area. Now, obviously, part of that is the fact they've been focused on a different project for much of the last year, but I just think this is also it's a big area. It's going to take some time, and it's expensive. It's expensive to drill in this area of the world, and in a challenging market environment, you want to conserve your treasury. Overall, my takeaway from Summa: very high quality team. The CEO is Galen McNamara, really personable, knowledgeable, technically, proficient CEO. Um, Overall, I think their team is top notch. Their whole team of, on the ground there in Tonopah, very strong exploration team. They've put together a 3D model for the entire, district of Tonopah that's never been done before. So they are head and shoulders above the rest in terms of technology. But it remains to be seen just what they've got there at Hughes. I think that it's still early days, but obviously this drill program that's being carried out right now is a big deal, right? The results there are going to matter a lot. Blackrock Silver. So BlackRock actually has the biggest market cap of any of the companies that we saw. It's about 60 million. Still not that big, but 60 million is the largest of the 5 companies that I saw. And BlackRock has, if you try to understand the evolution of the Tonopah area, a lot of the mining was done in and around here. Historically, it was done over here at Belmont, the Tonopah mining area, the hill where the original, discovery was made is right here. Um, and then they started to move west, right? But basically, the old timers stopped around here somewhere. Okay, they never went far out here to the west, and so basically, BlackRock's idea is, well, we're going to extend this Tonopah to the west, and they called it Tonopah West. Now, BlackRock produced a maiden resource for its project in May 2022, and I believe it's 42 million ounces of silver equivalent. Relatively high grade, 450 grams per ton silver equivalent. So solid. I mean, for a maiden, resource, that's respectable. But in the next breath, to be honest, it's not big enough. So yes, it's definitely high grade enough. But to get a major mining company interested in here, it's probably got to be double that size to really attract some real interest. It's just not big enough. And that's what I've said about every company so far, right? It's just not big enough. So that it's high grade, but it's scale challenged. And so how do you solve this problem? BlackRock's taken a break at Tonopah the last few months. I think basically in 2023, they've taken a break to consolidate all the data and all the work that they've done. But they are drilling right now at Silver Cloud. So let's, and obviously, if you talk to the BlackRock guys, they're going to tell you there's a lot more to be found. They've just scratched the surface, et cetera, et cetera. But, frankly, they've done a lot of drilling already, and they've done some deep drilling. Okay, so it's not like they haven't tried. They've put in a respectable a bit of work there in the last few years, and they've had good results. But the 42 million ounces is what they've come up with so far, right? So it's still not big enough to be economic. Now that could change, though. What's really interesting about BlackRock to me is Silver Cloud, because this is their second project in the northern part of the state, near Battle Mountain, over here. So Silver Cloud has pulled some nice holes over the years. Okay, they drilled 8.32 grams per ton over 1.5 meters in 2019. Placer Dome, back almost 20 years ago, drilled 5.6 grams per ton over 12.2 meters. And then last year, BlackRock drilled 70 grams per ton gold and 600 grams per ton silver over 1.5 meters in the Northwest Canyon area. So in the same area of the project, within 500 meters or so, you have 3 very respectable gold intercepts, and obviously one that carries a pretty good amount of silver too. That's pretty intriguing. The market has completely ignored this and basically is counting Silver Cloud as a zero for Blackrock. But this could change, because if they're able to follow up on those results and prove that this was not a fluke, this 70 gram per ton hole last year was not a one-off random hole, that there's actually a lot more here, then it's game on. It's a game changer for the company. So BlackRock has begun drilling at Silver Cloud just in the last week. A 2,000-meter program has commenced, and they're basically going to test in this Northwest Canyon area at Silver Cloud, up to 500 meters along strike from where they drilled last year. So you have a potential for some major catalysts here, a confirmed new discovery, and in a great area of the U.S. to make a gold and silver, discovery, and the market's ignoring it. That's just how tough this market is right now for junior mining. Tough for the companies, tough to raise money, but perhaps good for investors to be able to take advantage of great opportunities at really low valuations. So this is where Silver Cloud is located. Look, here's Newmont's Gold Strike mine, obviously one of the largest gold mines in the history of the world. The Hollister mine from Hecla, and then the Midas mine also from Hecla. So this is elephant country here along the Battle Mountain trend in the northern part of the state. Silver Cloud, boom, right smack dab in the middle of it all, and the market is just ignoring this. Okay, now obviously it's a show me market, so they're going to have to generate the drill results this year, but they're going for it, and you got to respect that. 2,000 meters of core drilling at Silver Cloud commencing right now. Okay, and you can go through the slide deck. It explains it all. It gives a pretty good, clear picture of what the company is doing right now. Bill Howell was the man in Tonopah who was explaining the history of Tonopah, the history of mining in the area, and how BlackRock got to where it is today. And obviously Andrew Pollard, president and CEO, also a large shareholder, regularly buying shares of his company on the open market. And ever the optimist is, Mr. Pollard. In fact, I saw him in Vancouver last month at the Metals Investor Forum, and he was preaching the gospel of Silver Cloud, saying that basically the market was not giving any value to this project and the drill program that was about to get started. And so even if they miss at Silver Cloud, doesn't matter. Share price is already priced the Silver Cloud project at a zero. So it's all upside potential if they're able to drill more holes like last year's 1.5 meters of 70 grams gold. And then the final company, well, two more. We got a little tiny company over here, but Westvault. Westvault has a fully permitted project near Tonopah called the Hasbrook Gold Project. And this is kind of a head scratcher, because the project has been permitted for several years, and the company hasn't started to do construction. They haven't started to build a mine. And if we look at just some of the economics, so what you have here is you have a gold grade of about 0.59 grams per ton with a little sniff of silver in there. So let's just call it 0.6. 0.6 grams per ton gold, open pit, heap leach. This is oxide gold. This is all near surface. And you can look at the economics here, the NPV, 5% rate of discount, $200 million NPV, 9-year mine life, 51% IRR, and all-in sustaining cost of less than $1,000 per ounce of gold. Okay, and this is using a 1790 gold price, right? So this is not even using 1900. This is 1790. So I think 1790 is a reasonable gold price to use right now. If we want to be more conservative, then we can use 1,700, obviously. But this looks like real economics to me, and 51% IRR is pretty damn good. Why is the company trading at a $55 million market cap today, right? That's the question. Well, I think there could be a few answers to that. The fact is the management is not doing much. They're waiting for a higher gold price and a better valuation for the project. They don't want to build the project. They want to sell the project. So whenever a company is clearly offering body language like, we want to sell it, we're not going to build it, then they pay a penalty. They pay a penalty from the market. And then you have to ask, well, who are the acquirers? Like, who's the natural acquirer for this one? It's too small for someone like Kinross. So who is it going to be? Right. And it's size constrained. So even though the economics do work, I mean, this is 0.6 grams for, near surface, open pit, heap leachable gold is pretty good. That's a good grade. Strip ratio is less than 1. Like, that's great. But, it's 71,000 ounces of gold production per year, 8 to 9 year mine life. It's 500,000 ounces or 600,000 ounces of gold. It's just not that big, right? And so if it was double the size, if it was over 1 million ounces, you'd have a whole different story where I think, you could get a mid-tier interested. But this project as it is today is actually too small even for a mid-tier. And so it's paying sort of a penalty price. It's being punished by being less than 100,000 ounces per year, by being less than 1 million ounces total, by being less than a 10-year mine life. But if it was more than a 10-year mine life, and if it was more than 1 million ounces of mineable gold, and if it was over 100,000 ounces of gold per year, I think you'd have a big upward re-rate. It's just not clear if that's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Right? We're sort of in a limbo here with a management team that wants to sell and has made it clear that they're not building this mine, right? So, but that being said, great management team. And you look at the shareholders, you got some very high quality shareholders. You have Sun Valley Gold Fund owns nearly 50% of the shares. Hedge fund out of the UK owns 17%. You have Eric Sprott at 5%. David Lotan, a very well-respected investor in the junior mining sector, at 2%. One thing that kind of stands out is like the management and insiders only own 1%. That's a little, So anyway, put it all together. If you rolled up all 4 of these companies into one, all their assets around Tonopah into one company, I think you'd have a $500 million market cap company. Okay. I mean, that's just me just making up a number, but it'd be way more valuable than the market caps these companies have today. It makes sense to me that Tonopah needs to roll up these assets. You shouldn't have 10 juniors operating 12 different projects in and around Tonopah, right? And then Bitterroot. So BTT is a tiny little $3 million market cap junior. CEO is Michael Carr, lives in Vancouver, but definitely has been interested in this Walker Lane trend for many years. And he staked this project in February. So 163 claims, probably going to stake more ground, probably going to get bigger. But this is basically adjacent to, Allegiant's Castle, Boss, and Berg gold deposits, right? It's basically just due west of Berg. In fact, they say the eastern edge of Nighthawk claims is less than 300 meters from the Berg deposit. BTT needs to do a more comprehensive soil sampling program at Nighthawk, probably a little, 10, 12 hole RC program, maybe 100-meter holes, just get some more data. They stake this on geophysics. I've seen the geophysics. It looks pretty compelling, but until we get some actual assays back from the lab, both in terms of rock chip samples, soil samples, and then obviously RC drilling. It's very, very early days. It's very speculative. But this is the sort of organic project that can be generated in this part of the world around Tonopah. I have no doubt that there will be new discoveries made in the Walker Lane trend over the coming years. A lot of guys are out there kicking rocks and doing the actual work on the ground that's needed to make a new discovery. And I have no doubt that there will be more made in the next decade or so. But overall, my takeaway from Tonopah is very positive. This is, again, first world, great infrastructure. Everything you basically want in a mining camp is present in and around Tonopah. I just feel like there needs to be some consolidation of these assets in order to generate the sort of scale that one needs to prove up the economics required to permit and construct mining operations. I really wish all these companies, Allegiant with their drill program, Blackrock with their Silver Cloud drill program, Summa at Ruby, all these companies, I wish them great, success this year and in the coming years. Definitely rooting for this district to be revitalized and get back up and running again as an operating mining jurisdiction in the United States. Thanks a lot for watching this video. And if you found any value and if you enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below.